Okay, welcome to this week's edition of Professional Insights, brought to you by the National Referral Network and hosted by two guys named Mike. I'm Mike. He's Mike. Good morning to you, sir.
Good
My
morning,
my
Mike.
my brother from another mother is here
Yes, sir.
this morning, and we're ready to go. We're here with a guy named Kevin. So it's two Mikes and a Kevin this morning. Kevin is he's an attorney up in Idaho. That shirt looks like Idaho, by the way, Kevin.
I'm just trying to fit in.
Yeah, right. And of course, Kevin, as I was explaining, the purpose of this presentation is to share professional wisdom, expertise, and insights so that professionals, individuals, really anyone can benefit from what you would have to share with us this morning. So thank you for giving us a couple of minutes. Let's jump right into this. Kevin, what is it about you and your firm that is unique?
Well, at my firm, we do business law. And I think that we're unique because we do both transactional work and litigation. A lot of times attorneys just sort of pick one path. They're either a transactional lawyer or a litigator. And in the context of what I primarily do, which is business purchase and sales and business law generally, it really helps to have been in court and to have fought people over, for example, business breakups or business deals that have gone sideways, an acquisition that's gone sideways, because I can see on the transactional side, when I'm drafting docs, when I'm doing a deal, I can see where the landmines will be and what people are going to fight about.
So, Kevin, with the purchase and sales, right? I mean, and look, I've always talked to clients about having with partners, and if something were to happen, then do they want their family involved, or the partner's family involved? And without a doubt, it's a no. But what are some of these top mistakes that you see business owners make when they're planning these transitions or trying to get their business ready for a purchase or actually a sale? That wouldn't be a purchase, it'd be a sale.
So those are two sort of different things. One is what you were just talking about, which is if you want your family involved, I would categorize that more as internal governance. And that's a great issue to discuss too, which is how do you think about what happens when a failure occurs in a business generally, which is, a failure can occur in many ways, one of which is like partners, getting into a dispute or something, but another one can be a triggering event like incapacity, death. How do you plan for that internally in terms of your internal deal docs, your bylaws, your shareholders agreements, your operating agreement? How do you plan for transferability of interests in a company, either between partners or avoiding, becoming a partner with your partner's ex-spouse or their kids. And then that's a little bit different though than planning for a sale.
Gotcha.
So in terms of a sale, you'd be thinking about an intentional act as opposed to an inadvertent act or an unintentional act. So I think that in terms of a business sale where you are trying to sell your business or buy a business, there's two parties. There's the seller side and the buyer side. On the seller side, what I think that people have to think about is capturing value. And capturing value means different things in the context of different businesses. And by the way, interrupt me if I start ranting here too much.
Well, no, I wanted to ask one question. Because you take a typical business owner, they've been, small business owner, they've been working in their business for, 20, 30, 40 years in some cases. They're getting older. They're thinking, I got to exit the stage at some point. How should they begin to prepare to do that, A? And B, what mistakes should they look to avoid?
So I think preparation is critical. Preparation usually involves a team of people, unfortunately, including typically a lawyer. That's a very self-serving statement, but it's true. A lawyer and a CPA, I think, and a financial advisor. I mean, really, you've got to kind of combine everyone. The business sale process takes more time than people think. A typical sale is about 6 months to a year. And part of that is because a lot of times, and sellers, a lot of business owners are surprised by that. But what you're trying to do to maximize your sale price is to, like I was saying before, capture the value. And you've got to identify what the value is. And so if you don't mind, I'll just give you a quick example. I just sold 5 Jiffy Lubes here in Idaho. And
I didn't know there were 5 Jiffy Lubes in Idaho.
Stop it.
Anyway, haha. Okay, go ahead.
So when we did that deal, on the seller side, I represented the seller on that one. And we were really thinking like, how can we maximize the value, both in terms of a target buyer, but also in terms of just the company itself. And one of the real value, one of the biggest values in that deal was their leases for the retail locations. So if you think about a Jiffy Lube, they've got a lot of investment in furniture, fixtures, and equipment. You've got to set up the location to have the lifts and all that stuff. So we had to go to all the landlords, renegotiate long-term leases, options to extend. And then when you're thinking about maximizing value, the buyer looks at that and says, oh, we've got tons of value because we've got 40 more years we can operate this location, and that increases the sale price. So it's really planning in advance.
So, but Kevin, how long if you're planning an exit, like you mentioned, a process of a sale is a year, but when you're planning an exit, how long should they be planning to maximize that value?
Well, a lot of times what you see is people, they think that they're just going to list it on a business on Biz Buy Sell, and it's going to be sold. And so I guess the planning has to occur a lot. It's got to occur 6 months in advance of that, but before you're even ready to sell. And then once you are actually selling the business, it will be a much quicker transition. But you have to plan in advance because, just going back to that example, you need to talk to all these different parties. It depends on the business, but you've got to talk to all these different parties to renegotiate things like leases. Or think about a professional services business. You've got to think about the transition of that business to the new buyer, which could mean, like in a financial planning business, I've done book of business sales. You've got to introduce the clients to the buyer so that there's a trust built, there's a relationship established, et cetera. So it's hard to give you a definite time frame, but it's just well in advance of when you want to sell, you have to plan for a sale. So
Kevin, how should somebody start? Let's back to my earlier example. You're that older business owner, and like, I gotta figure out how to, I want to retire. I don't want to do this forever. Where should they start? And in particular, where do they go to get information just to familiarize themselves with what the process of getting ready to transition out? Where do they go to get information about what to do, what that process looks like?
It's a totally biased answer. The lawyer.
Go to Kevin Hogle.
me. If they're in California or Idaho, it's me. I think that it's the team. I think most business owners and successful businesses either have a team established or need to establish a team, which is their financial advisor, their CPA, their lawyer. And you need to know what you don't know in order to sell a business. And lawyers certainly do, whether that's me or someone else. They know what, in part, the important things are. But also, a business broker a lot of times is very helpful too. I have a lot of very successful deals done with business brokers, and they are instrumental in many of those because they're also a lot of times experts in valuation. And a lot of times that's the most important thing to the seller, which is how much do I get? And so you got to figure out, well, what are the metrics that we're going to use to measure value, and how do we maximize those things in that particular niche before the sale.
Kevin, so you mentioned what you don't know, which is a great, well, it's not a great position to be in, but how do you even know what questions? So if somebody sits down with you or any attorney, like a lot of individuals that we've talked to, they don't have a financial planner. Their CPA is really kind of reactive and not proactive. So how do you start having these conversations and the questions that need to be asked if you don't even know where to start?
Okay. So like I said, this is very biased. As a lawyer, what I'm thinking about, if I'm talking to a client about it, which I have those conversations all the time, you have to think about what the end goal is first. And I think that a lot of times people's lawyer, their business lawyer, and maybe combined with their estate planning lawyer, if their goal is to transition the business to a family member, for example, then the lawyer is going to be able to help do that via an estate plan. If the goal is to sell the business, hopefully the lawyer can both identify what the important things are. For example, retaining key employees, drafting incentive agreements for a long-term transition. Thinking about a transition to a buyer, you don't want to lose key employees when you're a buyer. So that maximizes value for a seller. So I think a lawyer is a good place to start. And that's incredibly biased, but I think it's kind of true.
Oh, and
there it is.
And there it is.
You're setting me up for great lawyer answers. Talk to a lawyer.
Right. There's the plug. And we are at shameless plug time here, Kevin, because as we wrap up, I want to ask you, you are a National Referral Network member, but you were a little bit skeptical, I think, coming into this. You just thought it was maybe one more network and weren't really sure if this was going to amount to anything because referral networks promise referrals and all that kind of stuff. Surprise, it's actually kind of worked out for you. So do you now, because you mentioned team, that really it's about the team for any business owner. Do you now see that you can utilize the resources in the network to help your clients build teams?
Yeah, I've been, I would say, unbelievably, I would call it shocked by how it worked. As a lawyer, you get bombarded with people soliciting you. It's everyone. Every new financial advisor out there has to call X number of lawyers per day. Every CPAs, and everyone thinks that. And so you hear a lot of people saying like, let's make a network, let's do these things, and you never really believe it because it really never manifests into anything true. But in this particular case, it has, and it's already giving me a great relationship with financial advisors, CPAs, one CPA in particular, and also clients. So I'm shocked, but
in a good way.
In a good way.
And Kevin, I'll tell you kind of, and this is kind of a plug for the National Referral Network, is that when I called you with that referral, I had already vetted the CPA and the client. And I think that's one of the benefits of what we do in developing the team environment, is that we want to make sure that the client's in position to be introduced to the professional and then make that proper introduction versus just, hey, Kevin, go call the CPA. He's got a client. And then there's a very awkward conversation. So when I called you, which you were definitely surprised, the CPA already knew the client, already knew I was calling you. So there was kind of a warm introduction, and that led to, and not, it always doesn't always work, but in this situation, it led to that client working with you because everything was set up before I even talked to you.
Yeah, it was very smooth. I met personally with the CPA before we even had a discussion with the client. I think he also wanted to vet me. And then after our discussion, then I was introduced to the client, and I even told the client, look, call around. I'm not the only, like, throw a rock. Well, I don't know, maybe pick up a rock and you'll find a lawyer under it.
Yeah.
And it just, I don't know. I mean, we have a very good relationship now. They are my client. And I now know a CPA who's great that I can work with on deals like a business purchase sale.
Okay. So as we wrap up, if you want to know more about the National Referral Network, I might put the thing up.
There it is. I forgot about the other plug.
Put the thing up. Okay. All right. It's nrnamerica.com. See you and you. No, not him. The other guy. Yeah. You look. Everybody look at this because this is real, folks. I mean, I think one of the hardest jobs that when Mike and I talk to professionals, one of the hardest jobs we have is to convince them it actually is real. Kevin just said he didn't think it was real. Guess what? It's real. There's actually referrals that are generated. So you won't be sorry you checked it out. Professionals of every persuasion. And if you're an individual watching this, we hope that you found this valuable, especially if you're a business owner and you're in that phase where you're trying to transition yourself out of your business or sell it to somebody, or I don't know, have a family member come into it, all different scenarios. We hope you found this conversation valuable. We'll be doing this every Tuesday morning, talking to different professionals, different individuals about different things. And Mike, any final thoughts before we sign off here?
Any questions, reach out to any one of us. We're happy to help in any way that we can. And going through this, Kevin, actually, I've got another introduction I need to make for you. to you, something
Oh
like that.
my God.
An
And it's not
introduction.
even Christmas. Oh
So
my
there it
God.
is.
I
Wow.
wouldn't have
Um,
believed it before, but now I do. It's
Yeah.
true.
So other than that, yep, like Mike said, we'll be here next Tuesday morning. But Kevin, any final thoughts from you, sir?
No, thanks for having me on.
All
Wonderful.
right. Thanks, you guys. We'll see you next Tuesday, folks.